In this N8N Masterclass, you will learn everything about the Google Sheets API and how you can use it with N8N. So you'll start by learning how you can interact with Google Sheets using N8N, and through this tutorial, you'll master the whole process, and by the end, you'll be building your own mini CRM, which you can automate using N8N. Completely hands-off. So let's get building. So today you'll be learning everything from setting up different type of triggers using Google Sheets and making complex automated workflows to simulate tasks like CRM. So let's take it step by step. And let's connect the Sheets API to our N8N, which would be our first step. Let's go. So here we are in a fresh N8N template. Let's start by renaming this. So I'm going to name it as the same as our tutorial in the school community, which is A-Google Sheets API. And you can get this entire template, which we're going to make here in N8N in the school community as well. So what we're going to do is start by adding the trigger manually node. So here we have the first node. So let's start by adding the Google Sheets node. What I'm going to do is click on this plus button and search for Google Sheets here. Here you can see I have the Google Sheets node. I'm going to select the first option just so I can configure the credentials. So I'm going to click on Create Spreadsheet. And now I have the node added here. So the next step would be to click on Select Credentials and create new credentials. So now you have to get all of these credentials from the Google Cloud Platform. So I'm going to open a new tab and search for Google Cloud Platforms. Now I'm going to open the Google Cloud Platforms and head to the console. I have already logged in, so I can see the console. If you haven't, you can create an account. Then I'm going to click on API and Services. So now I am in the API and Services section. So now the next step would be to configure the credentials. So I'm going to go here and click on Credentials. And then I'm going to click on Create Credentials here. And here I'm going to select the OAuth client ID. Now I'm in the Create OAuth client workflow. So in the application type, I'm going to select Web Application. Then I'm going to name it Google Sheets. You can name it anything. So I'll name my client Google Sheets so I can keep track which client is being used for what application. And now you have to leave this section blank. But in the next section, which is the authorized redirect URIs, you have to head back to N8N and copy this OAuth redirect URL and come back here and add the URL here. Now, the next step would be to click on Create. And now you have your OAuth client ready. So I'm going to copy this client ID and head back to N8N and paste it here. And I'm going to do the same for client secret. Now, the next step would be to click on Save and then click on Sign in with Google. But before we do this, you have to also configure the Sheets API. Now, the next step would be that I go to the API and Services section. Now I'm going to click on the search bar and search for Google Sheets. Here you can see that I have the Google Sheets API ready. So I'm going to click this. And then I have this page open. So I'm going to click on Enable. And now the Google Sheets API is ready. Now you can see our Google Sheets API is enabled. And in the credential section, you can see the client that we just made, the Google Sheets one, is also being showed here. So we can use that client to log into this node. Now I'm going to click on Sign in with Google. And I'm going to sign in with my account, which is Dorian Built. Now I'm going to click on Advanced. And then I'm going to click Go to DorianAI.me on Save. So this is showing this message because we haven't verified our OAuth client. So now I'm going to click on this option, which is Go to DorianAI.me. And I'm going to select all. So here I'm giving it permission to view and manage my Google Drive files, see, edit, and create the files, and also manage the Google Sheets spreadsheets because all the spreadsheet and Google Sheets are stored in Google Drive. So we're going to use that. Then click on Continue. Now you can see the connection is successful and this window will close in 5 seconds. So now we have this ready. So now we have added our credentials to the Google Sheets node. So what I can do is now save it and see what exactly does it do. So this node is used to create spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do is, so now I'm going to check if this complete node is working correctly. So we have our credentials set up, which is the Google Sheets account. Then in the resource, I'm going to select document, and in the operation, I'm going to create a spreadsheet and I'm going to write made with N8N. So let's see if the sheet is made. So now I've executed the step. And now you can see the node has completed the operation, which was to create a spreadsheet. So it has made the spreadsheet and it made with N8N. So let's go into our Google Sheets account and see if it has made one. So I'm going to go to Google Sheets, and here you can see that it just made with N8N. So we just created this spreadsheet and now we know that this is working. So we just verified that our workflow is working correctly. So what I'm going to do is look at each node and then see what it does. Now we saw our basic automation is working. So what I'm going to do now is look at each subnode from the Google Sheets node and see what exactly does it do. So I'm going to take these two nodes here, and this is the create spreadsheet node. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another spreadsheet here, and this time I'm going to call it N8N playground. So that's the spreadsheet we're going to use for all our operations. And now you can see our N8N playground spreadsheet has been created. So now I'm going to go to the spreadsheet we just created and configure it for some basic settings. So what I'm going to do is go to N8N playground and make it the first column be name, and the second be company, third be the location of the company, and fourth be contact information, or maybe I'll just call it email. So that's what we're going to be doing. We'll have 4 fields: name, company, location, and email. And I'm going to make all these bold and increase it to 12. All right. So we have our basic settings configured. So now let's start by adding further operations. What I'm going to do is click on plus and search for sheets. And then I'll select the first operation. So these two are the document actions, which basically means all the spreadsheets that you see here, you can manipulate all the files in here like these, but you cannot do anything inside of that. And these actions, the sheet within document actions are used to manipulate the items inside of it. And then we have 3 triggers, which are basically used to trigger the automation rather than some other trigger. So we're going to see that as well. So let's start by adding the first one, append or update row in sheet. So I'm going to add this, and then the sheet account is already configured. So in the resource section, I'm going to select sheet within document. And then we have so many operations here, which is to append or update row, create row, and delete it. And you can also update many rows. So what I'm going to do is append or update row. And in the document, you have all the files you can select with. So I just made N8N playground. I'm going to select that. And from the sheet, so I'm going to select the sheet 1. So the sheet 1 is basically all the subsheets inside of this spreadsheet file. So we have sheet 1. I can add another one by this button, which is click sheet 2. And then I can see the sheet 2 here. So there you can see, but I'm going to do all the operations in the sheet 1. So I'm going to select that. And then let's go back to sheet 1. So now I have options to send all the data inside the sheet. Now I have the option to send the values inside. So rather than typing it here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a edit fields node, and I'm going to enter it there. So now I have this, or maybe I'll just keep it here. So let's see what exactly do we need. We need name, company, location, and email. So I'm going to create 4 of that. First would be name. Second would be company. Third would be location. And the fourth will be email. So now what I'm going to do is enter the values, which is, I'm just going to say Dorian law. And then in the company, I'll say Dorian AI. And in the location, I'm going to say Texas. And the email, I'm going to say Dorian Bills. And then what I'm going to do is test the step. So now you can see we have 4 items here. So I'm going to go to the Google Sheets node, and I'm going to say add. I'm going to rename it to add items to sheet. And then I'll take the 4 items I got from here: company, location, and email. Then I'm going to click test step. And now let's see what do we get. Here you see the error. The column to match on parameter is required. So I haven't selected anything here. So what I'm going to do is, so I got the error because I didn't select anything here. So I'm going to select the name, which is the first one. So you can match the column to the row that we're entering. So you can use that column to match these rows and insert the data. So our node has successfully run. And let's see. In the N8N playground, we have all the information here, which is the name, company name, location, and email. So in the bottom of this node, let's see some other options as well. So click on add option and let's look at the first one. The first one is cell formatting. So what this does is, as you can read here, if you select the Google Sheets format, which is by default, so it would be as if you type the data directly in the sheet, it's going to be formatted that way. But if you select the let N8N format it, so what's going to happen that the formatting information will also be sent through the API. So I don't want that. I just want the Google Sheets to format it. So I'm not going to do it. If you have some special kind of data, you can use it. So now let's look at the second option, which is data location on sheets. So this gives you the fine-grained control of how the data is stored on this spreadsheet. So we have two options here. First is the header row, and the second is the first data row. So header row is the row in which we have all the names of the columns. So for example, name, company, location, and email. So by default, it's once. So we can start appending the data from the second row. But imagine if you have some other data, for example, I'll just add more fine-grained control. So imagine in some special circumstance, if you have, for example, some other information like collected after 2024. Imagine you have this specific entry. This spreadsheet has all the data which was collected out after 2024, and you want to add it to the second row, and you want all the data to be collected from the third row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the header row as the first one because that actually starts there. And this is the first data row. So it tells N8N on which row is the actual data contained. So I'm going to select 3. So now 3 is the first row on which it will insert the data. So I'm going to run this step again, and let's see here. Now we have this node completed running, and here you can see all the data have been inserted into the third row. So this is exactly what you can do using the data location on sheet options. So now let's look at the third option, which is the minimize API calls. So what this does is rather than sending everything in different API calls, which we can't exactly see because it's going underneath N8N. So what it's going to do is batch many of the API calls together and send it as one. And you can see here in the question mark, what it says is whether to use append instead of update. This is more efficient in some cases, but the data might be misaligned. So clearly it has trade-offs. So if you're not working with some highly efficient system, you can just turn it off. You don't need it. But if you're working with some very high amount of data and you have millions of rows, this might be worth considering. So now we have added our data to our sheet. So what I'm going to do is remove this section, and I'm also going to remove these lines. So what I'm going to do is I've removed the section of data location. So by default, it's going to be 1 and 2. I'm going to click this again. And now the node has completed running. All my data will be here in this, and this is bold. So I'm going to remove the bold option. And I'm also going to, and now you can see our data is here. So using the same option, we can do many operations, which is to append row and then clear the entire sheet, create a new sheet, and delete some rows. And now you have seen how you can add items to your sheet. So now we have inserted our data in the Google Sheets. We're going to look at the next node. So essentially, all these nodes are pretty same, except the only option which is different is the operation option. For example, let's see it again. So here you can see all the options are the same, except the operation. And from here, you can configure all types of nodes, except the webhook ones. So what I'm going to do is select clear this time, and I'm going to select N8N playground from here. And then I'll select the sheet 1. And then you can remove specific rows, specific columns, specific range, or you can delete the whole sheet. So I'm going to delete the whole sheet, and I'm going to keep the first row, which essentially will have all our headers here if we don't have our data. I'm going to run this, and I'm going to rename this to clear sheet. And now you can see the operation is complete and our data is gone. So now we have seen some basic operations using Google Sheets. Now we're going to see something a bit more advanced. So what I'm going to do is delete all of these. And then what I'm going to do is go here and search for sheets again. And this time I'm going to search for get rows in sheet. So let's look at this now. So here we have the same credential which we have configured. And we're going to search within the document. And then I'm going to get some rows. And it will be from N8N playground, and the sheet would be the first one. And now you can see filters here. So what exactly do filters do? And now you can see we have some filters here. Before we experiment with the filters, let's add some mock data here. So now I've added some mock data for some people, and I have the name, company, location, and also their email. So what I'm going to do is now let's look at the filters. So filters are basically advanced querying parameters for which you can find specific things. So filters can help you find exact data from a large database. For example, let's see the first filter. So what I'm going to do is I can search exact things in the column. So imagine I want all the people who are working for the company Ecosphere. So I'm going to search for Ecosphere and I'll try to find all the information there is. So now you can see I've got the data, which is the person is in the row number 6. The name is Laura Martinez and the company is Ecosphere. She's from Madrid, Spain, and this is her email. So this is exactly what we can use the filters for. And now you can see that you can also combine filters. So let's look at the two options, which is and or. So what and does is, so imagine you have two options. The term and returns true only if both the options are true. And in or, so what actually happens is it's a bit more lenient. So it's going to send you true even if one of them is true. And then you can combine these filters with all the other options, which is data location and sheet, which we previously saw, output formatting, and here you can do the general and date formatting, and you can also do return only first matching row. So imagine you want to see the first person who's working for Ecosphere and you have 10. So using this option, you're going to see the first one. Now we have learned about this. So I'm going to look at the final note in the basic section, which is update row in sheet. So this is pretty similar to what we have done. You'll also have some extra options here, and you can map each column manually or you can map automatically, and you can add or remove the data, for example. So here you can map in two different ways. The first is to map automatically, which you can look at the previous data that's coming from the previous nodes and then you can use that, or you can map each column manually. From my experience, using the match each column manually is more. And now you can see here the option, the column to match on. So whatever option you choose here, that's the one it's going to use to match what options you want to change. For example, here you can see I've selected the name and here it says name using to match. Imagine I select email. So now it's going to say email using to match. So I just want to match using name. And what I'm going to do is copy the name of Emily. I'm going to copy Emily Zhang and paste it here. So now what I'm going to do is imagine she started living in some other place. So currently she lives in Toronto, Canada. So I'm just going to say she started living in Texas as well, Texas, US, and I'm going to run the step. And now you can see the node has run successfully, and let's go and check our playground. And now you can see we have updated the data. Emily Zhang now lives in Texas. That's exactly what you can do with this node, and you can send additional information, and we have the same kind of formatting options here. So now we have looked at some basic nodes. So now I'm going to show you how you can use your webhook node to trigger your workflows. So I'm going to delete all of these nodes, and then I'm going to click on the plus button and I'm going to search for sheets. Then I'm going to click. We have the first option here on row edit, on row updated, and we have this combined option, which is if any of these actions happen. So I'm going to select that. Then what I'm going to do is make a simple workflow around it. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I created the basic workflow. What I did was took the first node that we added, then made the polling time of 1 minute. Every time something is added, it's going to update, or if nothing is added, it's still going to poll it every minute. And then this is the document we're looking for, and this is the sheet. And the trigger is the row added or updated. So what I did was, and then I just added a edit field option so I can see what exactly is going on here. So now we have this, we have saved this workflow and we have this active. So what I'm going to do is go to our N8N playground. What I'm going to do is add Bill Gates here, and then I'll say Microsoft, or just say any, or just add New York, and then I'll say bill.gates@microsoft.com. So now I've added this. So now let's go and look at the executions. So now you'll see a new execution here. We have this completed, and now let's wait for it to happen. And now you can see we have our execution completed. So let's see what do we get. So let's open this Google Sheets trigger, and here you can see, we have added a piece of information in the row number 9, and the name is Bill Gates from Microsoft, and the location is New York, and this is the email. So this is exactly how it works. And you can have such webhooks. So for example, if you're running an email list and you want to follow up, so whenever a new email comes in, so you can directly send the follow-up email. So now you have learned how to set up basic triggers and webhooks. Now we're going to learn how to do all this stuff and do complex tasks with N8N and Google Sheets. And you can use these Google Sheet templates and all this information to make form collection templates, have a mailing list directly running from Google Sheets. For example, imagine you run a newsletter and you can use this entire workflow directly to do the entire thing. You can collect all the emails in here, and then after you get the email, you can follow it up and also send weekly emails using this option and the email option. And then you can maintain a CRM here, all the automation and customer management. You can do your entire backend data management using N8N and Google Sheets itself. You can also do social media management and inventory and order tracking. Now we have learned all the basics of Google Sheet Node in N8N. We learned how to configure the API, the OAuth client, use the basic triggers, use webhooks, and make simple workflows. We learned how to use and insert simple data into our sheet. Now it's time for something complex. And now we will be building our own little project, which would be a mini CRM. This would be a very good project if you want to learn all the basics and advanced concepts for Google Sheets API and how to manage data. So in this project, we'll also be using advanced stuff, for example, inline Google Sheet functions, how to handle data in bulk, and implementing conditional logic to do actions, and also doing fallback values. For example, if you have a form and there are 6 values to be inserted, but one of them is not present. So in that case, we don't want our automation to fail. So we have all the fallback values set. So if something is missing, it smartly autofills it with something which might be appropriate for it, and then we store the data. So for this CRM, you can completely start from scratch. You can implement everything and then you can let it run. But to demonstrate all the functions that it can do, I'm going to start with some mock data, and I'm going to insert the bulk data in our Google Sheet. Then I'm going to also add a form so people can enter data using that form. You can collect the data with the form and then insert into the Google Sheet. And in this function, we'll use all the functions we mentioned above, which is using fallback values. And then we'll be searching through the data, and we'll also implement intelligent classifications using the input we get. Then we'll also use the inline functions to predict certain things. Then we'll use the conditional logic to look where the client is in our marketing cycle. And then we'll be sending email based on the filtering status. So let's look at the first step, which is to handle bulk data. So if you're starting your CRM from completely scratch, you have to ignore this step. You don't have to do anything. But if you already have some data and you want to insert into our system, so I'm going to make a new file. So if you're starting with already some data, it depends how clean your data is. If your data is clean and well structured, you can go ahead in Google Sheets and click on this button, and then you can upload it from the computer. If it's not clean enough, depending on the data set, how big it is, I would suggest using AI to clean it and then get it to output a CSV file. If it's extremely large, you can use large context language models, but for this project, I've prepared a mock agency lead gen file. So first I'm going to go to Google Sheets, then I'm going to click this button, and then I'm going to click on upload, and then I'm going to click browse, and then I'll have my folder open. I'll select my lead generation mock data. It's a CSV file with all the information in it. And now you can see I have my information here, which is name, email, phone, budget, status, funnel stage, where exactly are we in our sales cycle, potential revenue, retainer, last contacted, and notes. And here you can see the AI is giving me an option to convert to table. So I'm going to click it, and now you'll see what it is. And now this is perfect. AI has already made a beautiful table for us. So now we have our mock data ready. What I'm going to do now is, so now I'll start by reading the mock data. I'm going to head to N8N, then click on plus, and then trigger manually. This is just for start. I'm going to use it. I'm going to remove it later. Then I'll put it here, and then I'll add sheets, and I'll select. Then I'm going to select get rows in sheet. This will allow us to read it. From here, my sheets account is connected. Then I'm going to select sheet within document and then get rows. And from the document, I'm going to select the lead generation mockup data. So I'm actually going to rename it so it's different. So I'm going to say lead gen agency. So now I have a different name, and I'm going to refresh it. Let's just change this. And now it's going to refresh. And here you can see I have lead generation agency. And from this, I'm going to select This is the name of our sheet. Then what I'm going to do is test it so I can read everything. And here you can see our node is working. We can read all the data via the row number, name, email, phone number, budget, status, funnel stage, profit potential, and retainer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm also going to add another column, and I'm going to call it, I'm just going to make a hypothetical table, which is cash collected. And the value of cash collected, we will set it later. So you can see how you can use inline functions. So now the next step of our build will be to take input from a form and add the data to our data sheet. So what I'm going to do is add another trigger here. I'm going to click on this plus button and then go to add another trigger, and I'm going to select on form submission. So now I have the form submission node here. So I'll zoom out and add it here. And then I'm going to add a edit fields node in front of it. So I can see exactly the data that I'm getting in. So before I pass it into the Google Sheets component, and I'll add it here. Then I'm going to configure this on form submission node. So let's start by giving it a form title. So I'm going to say Dorian's lead collection. Then I'll start by adding field names. So let's go and look at our document and see what field names we have. We have name, email, phone, budget. So I'm going to say name, email, then we have phone and budget. So we have our 4 fields ready. So now we have our basic 4 fields in. So now let's look at the status. Status can be a cold lead, warm lead, and a hot lead. So for this, what we're going to do is rather than asking the person, which would be extremely stupid, what we're going to do is ask the person to leave a note. And by reading the note, we're going to consider if the person is a cold lead, warm, or a hot lead. So for that, what we're going to do is before we even do the set fields, I'm going to add an AI agent in the middle, which would be a simple AI agent. There we go. So now we have an AI agent in the middle, which we're going to use to set the fields. Or maybe I should actually just remove this and put it here. Then what I'm going to do is go here and see the funnel stage. And I think we can just add that here, which is demo stage. The next would be profit potential. Right. So I think we'll use AI to determine that. And then we have retainer type, and then we'll have the date, which is the last contacted. And then we have notes. So I'll add another element, notes. So now let's see. The options we have. We have append N8N attributions, form path. So we're going to select ignore box and we're going to turn it true. So what this is going to do is it's going to stop the web crawlers and the bots from entering information here and giving us false information. And now let's configure it more. So we need the text element, and I'm going to say enter your name, enter your email. Then I'm going to say, and this should be a number, enter your phone number. And then I'm going to say, and this would be a number. I'll say enter your budget in USD. And then as we talked before, in the retainer type, I'm going to say, how long would you potentially work with us? Then in the date, I'm going to select, do we have an option for date? Yes, we have an option for date. and the date is auto formatted, which is great for us, and it's a required field, and knows anything you would like to tell us. And then I'm gonna make this required, and I'll make all of this required. So I'm gonna make the name required, which we need. The email should be required, the phone should be required, and the budget should be required. But the demo stage, for now, let's look at this. The demo stage. We don't exactly know if the person has stopped, and whatever the person enters, all the information that goes here would be completely random, right? So we have some options here, which is negotiation, book the call, demo completed. But if the person enters random information, we won't exactly know, and our complete database will be messed up. So we're not going to make it required. If the person enters something, we're going to ask our AI agent to give us something like this, or it's just going to give it the complete baseline, which is just book the call. So it's not ahead yet. So we're not going to make it required. And so in the retainer type, the client actually might not know how long he would like to work with us because he hasn't seen our work. So if he is completely committed, or he's being referred to by someone, he completely trusts us, he might give us a number, but else he might not. So we're not going to make it required. The date is required and the notes are required. So now let's see. Let's test it. So let's see what exactly the issue here. So I am going to lead gen form. I'm going to rename it, and then I'm going to select test step. So we have an issue here, which is please resolve outstanding issue before we act today. So I'm going to search it. Okay, so we have all this issue here. So what I'm going to do is turn it off, and then I'm going to try to run it. Okay, perfect. So now you can see we have our form here, which is we have the name, email, phone, budget, the demo stage, retainer type, and date, notes, right? So that's perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate this AI agent, and I'm going to add a open router chat model. And I'm going to add DeepSeek here. DeepSeek chat V3 324, which is the parameters of the DeepSeek model. And I'm going to do this. Now the next would be that we get all the information here, which goes here. AI form filling agent, which I'm going to add here. Now, then we'll have the edit fields, and then we can send it to Google Sheets. So, and let's configure this as well. So we are going to append row. We want to commit. So in this Google Sheets node, I'm going to rename it and say add row to sheet. So I am going to use the operation append rows, rename it, and then I'm going to add the row in the lead generation agency sheet, and this is the list. And then I'm going to map each of these myself. So let's go and see how we're going to do that. So let's see the first step. So now we have our basic setup complete. So let's use the lead gen form and get some data so we can edit our next field, which is the agent, edit fields, and then we can add the data to our sheet. And even before we add it to the sheet, we'll need some more nodes in the middle. And so let's start by this. So we have this configured. So I'm going to copy the test URL and test. I turned it on. So now I have the lead collection agent here. Or maybe what I should do is actually make it stop listening and turn this node off so we don't enter useless information. So we just have to clean it later. So I'm going to turn this step on. I'm going to click on test. So now I'll start by adding some mock data. I'm going to add Dorian, and I'm going to add my email address, and also add a random phone number. And the budget would be 5,000. So in the demo stage, I'm just not going to enter anything. In the retainer, I'm not going to enter anything. And for the date, I'm just going to say today. And then in the notes, I would really like to work with you. I was referred by XYZ. And then I'm just going to submit it. So now you can see our form has been submitted. So now what I'm going to do is I've got all my information here, right? So the next step, what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to pin this information so it doesn't go anywhere. And now I'll start editing my AI form filling agent. So let's see what exactly do we need. So we need define below. So I'm going to define the user message below, and that's all we need. So what I'm going to say is, let's make it bigger. So let's see what do we have. We have a name, email, phone, and budget ready. So let's see the demo stage. So all the options we have here is negotiation, book the call, negotiation, demo completed, right? So I'm going to copy these three and awareness. That's all we have, right? So I'm going to add it here. And then I'm going to say, based on the input given by this, person, categorize the input in four, categorize the input in one of the four options, which are these, which is we have booked a call, and then we have negotiations, and then we have our demo completed, and then the last is, or maybe what I should do is have the awareness of the first one, and then I'm going to make this one, and then this, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so, and then I'm going to say if nothing is provided, then select option 1 and always reply in one word. And let's see. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this agent. So let's see what exactly does it give it. So let's see what exactly does it give me. So I'm going to click on test step. And now you can see our node is executing. Okay, so it gave us 1, which is good, but we need the word. If nothing is provided, then select option 1 and always reply in one word, which should be the word in that option. Let's see if this gives us exactly what we want. A little bit of prompt engineering. Okay, this is not great. So we need to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and give it to ChatGPT. So it's going to write me a better prompt. Write a better prompt to do this task. There you go. So it has written us a better prompt. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go back to N8N and I'm going to open this and paste it here. So let's see. So it removed the numbers, which is annoying. Let's see. What I'm going to do is make a space here. And then I'm going to go back and test it. Let's see if it gives us awareness. Okay, perfect. So now we have awareness, right? So we have done one of these things. So we have this ready, which is the demo stage, right? But we didn't make the status, right? Uh, okay. So I think we'll have to configure the status ourselves. So we have the file stage configured. So let's go and do the next step. We have demo stage, which is funnel stage. And then we have profit potential. Do we have something in here? Okay, so I'm going to randomly make this field as well. So let's start. So we have this, and then we need the status. So let's do this. This is the first thing we need. Now I'll add another. So now we have our first agent configured, and I'm going to name it to funnel stage agent. And then I'm going to rename it. There we go. Now the next step is we want to know if the status of the lead is cold, warm, or hot. So what I'm going to do is add another advanced agent, which is the AI agent, and position it here, connect it to the Open Router API, which I've shown you in different tutorials how you can connect it. And if you want to have, and if you have some question, you can just ask it in the comments. And if you have some questions, you can just ask it in the comments. I'm going to select DeepSeek 3300324, and then I'm going to go to this agent. I'm going to and craft a prompt. So what I need is, based on the client's budget and notes, predict if the client is cold, warm, or hot lead. Here is all the information. Budget of the client, then I'm gonna copy this here. Then the next would be notes, and I'll add the note here. And I'm also going to give it more description. Do sentimental analysis of the note and look for tone. And look for the tone. And I'm just going to say do sentimental analysis. So now I'm going to configure how I want the output to be for the agent. So I'll write, you should only reply in one of three ways, which is cold lead, warm lead, or maybe I'll just make a cap so it exactly knows what I want. Cold lead, warm lead, and hot lead. So let's see what it does here. If we had more information, we can do more analysis. So perfect, it gives us warm lead. So this is done. And now what we're going to do is, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove this. And then we have the status, we have the funnel. Now I have these two AI agents ready, which predict the status of the lead and the funnel stage of the lead. The next would be to predict the profit potential. To calculate the profit potential of lead, we're going to be using the budget, status, and the funnel stage of the lead. So we can calculate. For example, here you can see if the lead is cold and even the budget is high, the potential profit is low. And if it's a warm lead, then the potential profit is higher. If it's a hot lead, then the profit potential is even higher. For example, here you can see the budget is $3,000. It's a warm lead, and you're making $441. And here the budget is only $1,500, but it's a hot lead, so you're making $451. So to predict the profit potential, we'll need the output of both these agents. So what I'm gonna do is I'll select these two, and I'm gonna bring it down, and then I'll select these two as well, and then bring it down. So now I have two agents, and now I'll click on the plus button. So now I'll click on the plus button, and I'm going to merge. So I can merge the data from both these nodes. And there you go. So now append number of inputs too. Perfect. So now I'm going to test it. So let's see, what do I get? I get awareness and warm lead. Perfect. Now I'll make another AI agent, which we'll use to predict the profit potential. So I'm going to rename it profit potential agent. And then I'll also rename this agent, which was the status agent. And I'm going to say lead status agent. Perfect. Now we have to configure this. Now I'll give it a user prompt, and it would be based on the budget. And you can actually refine all these prompts using AI. It's going to do a better job, but I'm just showing you. And I'm writing pretty good prompts. And I'm writing some right prompts, and you can give it to AI to get even better prompts. So let's go. Based on the budget given by the client in the lead gen form, estimate the profit, estimate the profit potential using the factors such as where the client is in the funnel stage and if the client is cold, warm, or hot lead. So let's see where exactly are we. So now let's look at this agent. So this agent is context unaware. So this agent is context unaware. It doesn't exactly know. For example, we have 4 types of funnel stage and 3 types of status. So we actually gave us the status here, but it doesn't exactly know the funnel stage. So what I'm going to do is explicitly tell that, because else it wouldn't know and it's going to just spit out random stuff. And I'm going to say there are 3 options in the client status: cold, warm. I'm actually going to make a little gap there. Cold, warm, and hot lead. There are 4 stages in the funnel, which is awareness. And I'm going to copy it from the previous agent. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say, copy these 4. Then we'll complete it till awareness. And I'm going to go back here and then how do I make it? I'm just going to make it bigger. There are 4 stages in the funnel, and then I'll write 1, 2, 3, 4. So depending on these variables, predict the profit potential. And I'm also going to give it an example. For example, imagine, for example, if the budget of a client is $1,000 and the lead is warm and demo is completed, which means everything is in its final stage, the profit potential is 60%, means $600. If otherwise, or maybe I'll say, now you can do the analysis. Here is all the information. And then I'm going to say funnel stage. And then the next is lead status. And here I'm going to enter all these options which I got from the merge node. And the funnel stage is awareness. I'm actually going to copy this. And then I'll copy the, or maybe this is not doing anything. That's why it's showing you just the output. So what I'm going to do is grab it from the funnel stage agent. So I'll add this here. And then I'll add the lead status agent here. And it says no path back to node. Let's go back and check it. Why is there no path? Okay, so it's actually making it 2 items, right? So, okay, so now I spot the issue. The issue is that we have both of these agents in parallel, so one of them is running. So let's just remove this, and I'm gonna add it here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this, remove this, bring it down, and then paste this agent here, and then add this. So now let's see. Let's look at the first agent. Everything is configured. It's working perfectly fine. Now let's look at the second agent. It might have some issues because it might not detect the input. Okay, so let's run the first agent. And now it's going to give us some output. And now let's run the second agent. We have awareness, but we don't have notes and budget. So let's get both. So I'm going to get budget from here and paste it here. And then I'm going to get the note from here, and paste it here. And now let's run this agent. And then we have hot lead. Perfect. And I'm going to add this to the profit potential agent, and then also add a open router chat model and connect it to DeepSeek, SAT v3, and then take it here. And now we have all of this ready. So we have the funnel stage from the funnel stage agent, and then lead from the lead stage agent. So we have all of this here. And you also need to add the budget, right? So let's add the budget here. The budget is this 5,000. And now let's run this. What exactly does it give us? Or maybe, did we tell it what exactly we want as an output? We didn't. So it will give us some dollar sign, which would have to remove. Let's see. Perfect. Okay, so it's doing the calculations. So now I have to give it some more information. This is great. It's doing some good analysis. It's doing some good analysis. It's considering the percentages, and it's dividing the 4 stages in conversion percentage. So it can see how much the lead has the potential. So now I'm going to say for the output, you just have to give me one word, which is the number profit potential. Don't add any currency signs. Just give me a number like 500 or 600. Or maybe I won't tell it the number because then it's going to take it as like else it's going to take it as a hint and just give me that number. So I'm just going to add this and then test it. Let's see. It will hopefully do the analysis in the background. And now you can see it gives us a number. So perfect. So now we have a number and we have profit potential. And then we have the retainer type. Okay. So we'll make another agent for the retainer type. Okay, so now for the retainer type, we're going to select none by default so we can update it later because currently it will be none, no matter what the status is. If it's completed, negotiations are done, we'll look at that later. And now the last contact will be directly given us to by the date and the notes is ready. So now let's look at the cash collected. This is exactly the situation where using the inline sheet functions come in. So let's see. So what I'm going to do is, so now we have all the information. I'm going to click on plus and then search for sheets and then add the append row in sheet. And then I'll select my Google account and sheet within the document, append row. And here I'm going to select the lead agency. And with the first sheet, map each column manually. So I'm going to map it now. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the name here, the email here, the phone here, the budget here. And now I'll add the status, which I get from here on lead, funnel stage from here. And now you can see how smartly it has done the profit potential. Because if you think about it, the funnel stage is still awareness. Even though it's a hot lead, considering the input we gave it, we said, I would really like to work with you. I was referred by XYZ. So the LLM understand that it's definitely looking to work with us. So it's not just exploring at something, but it's really new. So it's in awareness. And even though the current lead status is hot lead, it still says the profit potential is low because it calculates the profit potential by doing some math. For example, it looks at the 4 options from the funnel stage and the 3 options from the lead stage. And the higher it is in the ladder, the more profit potential it predicts. And the lower it is, the least it predicts. And it's actually a combination of it. So now we have the funnel stage here. I'm going to say the profit potential we could get from the LLM. Then the retainer type is, we're going to say none. So what I'm going to do is for all the inputs, I'm going to select none here. And then last contacted, I'm going to get the date, which I add here. Then for the notes, I add the note. And then for cash collected, this is exactly where I want to show you the inline sheet functions. So what you can do is when you input stuff, you don't have to actually send all of this. You can use the same functions you use in here. For example, imagine if you want the cash collected to be budget minus profit potential, which is just a random number. So just for demonstration, this is not real calculation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, this is 2D or D2, D2 minus, this is G2. So let's see. Or maybe we'll have to add an equal to in front, right? We have to add an equal sign. And now you can see 4084. So this has done all of it. So I'm going to remove all of this. Okay, so we're going to skip that. We're not going to add all of these so we can test our information when we give it. So let's try again now. So here I'm going to say equals to, and I'm going to say, where exactly is our budget? So our budget is here. Budget goes in, the budget goes in D column, right? So I'm going to say equals to D, and then the row would be 17. So you actually have to make it dynamic, but here just to show, I'm going to say D17 minus. And then you have to subtract G17. And now we'll run this step. So now we have all the data, and I'm going to add all this here. So let's see. So we have Dorian, we have the email, we have the phone, we have budget, we have the status, we have funnel stage, and we have the profit potential. We have the retainer as none. And there we go. It has calculated the cash collected using the inline functions. So you can use the same functions here which you'd use in Excel or Sheets. And now in this tutorial, we have done the part 1. The second, we have also taken input from the form, and we have done the intelligent classification. We have used inline functions. Now we have to use the option 5, which is intelligent classification, and use conditional logic and then send the email. So let's see. So we have all this here. So now what I'll do is, using all this information, I'll make a if node, right? So I'm going to use the if node. So what I want to do now is, Okay, so even before I use the if node, what I want is I want another node in the middle. I want the node to fetch all the information. So I'm going to do and click sheets, and then I'll select get rows in sheet, and then I'm going to place it down here. Perfect. And then I'm going to select, and then I'm going to configure this node, and I'm going to get all the rows from the lead gen agency. And then I'm just going to test it so it gives me all the nodes. Now I have this. So now I'll show you how you can use the intelligent classifications. So there are two actual options. One is you can just use the programmatic way, which is to if statements and add some random code, or you can just use the AI chatbots like you just saw in these three examples. You can get an input and then you can select what exactly you want to do. So what I'll do now is I'm going to go to schema and I'll say that only want people who have budget above certain number. Let's look at our budget. So people have budget from, okay, so we'll select people with more than $2,500, right? So if the budget is number greater than 2,500, we want all of those people. And now you can see we just have 8 people with that much budget. So it's 5,000, 3,000, 10,000, and all the threes and fives. Perfect. And now we're going to use a conditional logic. And then we'll also set up some fallback values. And we actually have set up fallback values here. For example, if the information is not there, here there wasn't. So this is exactly the example of fallback values. For example, if you collect data from some form and you don't have the information, you can use the agent to estimate what exactly would go there, and you can use all that information in here. And now I'll send the email based on the filtering status. So now I have the filtering status ready. So now I've filtered all the data. So now I just have to send the email. So what I'm going to do is open the Gmail node, which is mailer, and whatever mailing service you use, you can select here. So I'm just going to, so just to test this workflow, what I'm going to do is actually in the if node. And so in the if node, I'm going to make this $10,000 and then test it. So I only get one of the people here who have a $10,000 budget, and I'm gonna modify their email, and I'm gonna change this to Dorian Bills. Perfect. So now I have this email, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fetch the emails again. I'm gonna fetch all the data again. So for the $10,000, I get my own email, so I can send my email to demonstrate. Okay, is greater than. Okay, so is greater than basically implies that it has to be greater than 10,000, but it isn't. It's exactly 10,000. So I'm going to say is greater than 8,000. So now I'll get my data. That's perfect. So I have 10,000 and the email is set to my own email. So now I can, if it's true, I can use my own Gmail account and send a message. And here I'm going to set up the credentials. So what I'm going to do now is to set up these credentials, I'm going to go back to my Google Cloud platforms and I'm going to say Gmail. Let's see if it has its API. We have the Gmail API. And now I'm going to enable it. So I'll enable the Gmail API. And now you can see our Gmail API is enabled. So I'm going to go in credentials and I'm going to copy the same client agents I used before. So now I have the client ID and client secret. I'm going to copy this and go to client ID and then go back here, copy the client secret. So now I've entered the credentials. I'm going to click on sign in with Google. And then I'm going to sign in using my email. And then click on advanced, go to dorianai.me. And then it's going to ask me for some permissions, which is about the Gmail account. And then I'm going to select all of them and continue. And then we have connected our Gmail to N8N successfully. So in 5 seconds, this window is going to close. And now we have our Gmail account. What I'm going to do is message, and I'm going to send it to myself. Or maybe I can just enter it from here. Perfect. Custom mini CRM. and then it should be HTML type. And then for this message, I'll say, welcome to Dorian Builds community. Perfect. So now I'm going to send it. I'm going to send it to my own email. So now it says that it has sent the email. So now I'm going to open my mailbox and see. Let's go. So let's see the first email, which is the custom mini CRM. There you go. So we sent the email to ourselves, and we send this email automatically with N8N. This means our workflow is working perfectly. So we have completed our mini CRM challenge, and you can actually build a more complex email. For example, you can actually add different triggers than HTTP requests. For example, if anything here changes, for example, if someone messages you and you want to update the lead status from cold to warm or hot, you can actually add HTTP requests, and then using this update append node, and you can actually select from update. You can actually make another node, or just select append or update, and then give their account ID here, and then change the status and the final state from here, and also the retainer type. So you can manage all your CRM hands off, and you can automatically send them mails. You can actually make more Gmail templates here. For example, here in the message, in the email content, the message section, you can actually add another AI agent in the middle, and then write cold email using that, which we previously did in the lead generation tutorial, which was, I think, 2 videos ago. And then you can send different emails considering if they join, if they increase their plan or whatever they do. So we have our agent build complete here. So there's one last thing. So we have our mini CRM agent build complete here. So there's one last thing which I want to show you. That is how you can make this look so beautiful. For example, this looks perfect, right? So this is all added beautifully. But all the data we added, this does not look good. This looks like a normal table, which is so great, but you want to make it look like this. So when you start a fresh new CRM or whatever you're building, so what you're going to do is open a new sheet, and then I'm just going to name it fresh CRM. Then I'll name company, and I'm going to call it location. And I want to say status. And here I'm just going to say Dorian AI, Texas. And in the status, I'm going to say none, right? So in this, or maybe I'll just not add anything yet. So I'm going to go to insert and click on drop down. So now you can see I have drop down here. And if I go below, it's all going to be drop downs. And even if I remove this, it's still just going to be drop downs. And now let me add another data here. For example, I'm going to go and I am going to make a new automation just to demonstrate this. And you can find this automation in the school community along with the entire project and all the files, including the lead gen starter templates, the CSV I shared, and you can also get it in the description, the CSV. Then I'm going to go to personal, and I'm going to make I'm going to add a manual trigger here. Then I'm going to add a sheet, and I'm going to say append a row in the sheet, and I'm going to select the same account, and then I'll select the new fresh CRM that I just made. And now before we can start accepting values, we have to define the data validation rules. For example, we have to make the options so it can't have more options than you define. For example, hot lead has to be defined earlier. So I'm going to enter hot lead as, I'm going to give it a red color. So I am going to say the name should be Dorian 2, and the company should be Dorian AI 2, and the location should be Texas 2, and the status should be hot lead. And then I'm going to go ahead and add it to our database. And now you can see I have the hot lead here, which is perfect. And then you can define some more values according to whatever you're building, and you can complete the workflow. You can build your own CRM completely free in Google Sheets and run your agency from that as well. So if you want to learn how to build these great agents and want to learn everything about N8N, building AI agents, scraping, building viral SaaS and mobile apps, you can also get the free exclusive N8N blueprints here. You can join the Dorian AI community. So we already have 13 people in, and after the first seed round is over, which is the first 20 people, we're going to increase the rate. And if you want to work with me along with your projects, if you need any help, you can join the community as well. So see you in the next video.